Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds, and we are now talking about IPL, just IPL actually, but IPL retentions more specifically. Okay, so we all know that the T20 World Cup was just a bit of a warm-up act. It got a few names thrown in the ring, but realistically, the main event is the IPL 2023, and before the IPL 2023, we need to have the IPL 2022 auction, which will happen on the 23rd of December. And before that, teams needed to decide who they were going to keep and who they were going to bin off. Now, there were various reasons for the certain binnings and keepings of the IPL teams, and we're going to go through each of the teams, and we're going to just briefly chat about whether we think they made a good decision in whatever they did, and potentially like one or two players they might like to target. So the first one we're going to talk about is the most successful IPL team in the history of the game, Mumbai Indians. Notable releases,
I'll go with that.
Tyrone Pollard, and Daniel Sams, Fabian Allen, Murugan Ashwin, Riley Meredith. But realistically, we're talking about the main headline of that, which is Kyron Pollard. I think he was told that he was no longer going to be a part of that Mumbai side. They were going to release him. And he said, well, I don't want to play for anybody else. So they've signed him up as a batting coach instead. What do you think, boys?
Yeah, I think that's sensible because I don't think he'd get picked up anywhere else. He doesn't play for his country anymore. He's getting on a bit. And I think we saw that in the last IPL. It's not that he can't play those good innings, but it's the similar sort of place that players are in when they get to the end of their career. It's they're not consistent anymore. And so I think it's the right choice for Mumbai Indians to release Kyron Pollard. However, I would say that releasing Daniel Sams, I think that's their biggest error because he's a very good player that a lot of the teams want. The sort who would bat at 7 and 8, can smack it and also bowl at the beginning and at the death. Those players they get the big bucks. So I think there was a bit of a mistake in selling him.
That's
I think
interesting point.
There are some notable retentions though, which we all expected. Rohit Sharma staying, Tim David after his recent show of form. Sky, obviously they're not going to let him go. Ishan Kishan's there as well, so they've still got a very good, strong core. I think. I think
and
if
players
the
that have
auction
come
doesn't
to the
go
fore,
well,
sorry, and they've also got players that have come to the fore since, like Tilak Varma was really good last season, and he's been in really good form in the domestic stuff as well. So
Stubbs,
and you're absolutely right. Stubbs, Brevis. What do you think of their overall squad? Like, if you were going to think of, I'm not saying list an 11, but do you think that they have a solid core that they could go on and win an IPL with?
Yeah, I think they do. I think Mumbai, particularly, they've brought in Jason Baradorf. I think he's a direct replacement for Daniel Sams as well in a direct trade. So they've got 3 overseas spots left and they've got a healthy purse of about 20 crore. So I think they've got a good all-round squad. They have a base of field. I think they've got a few key bits missing though. I don't see a bowling and batting all-rounder in there. There's no one really who fits that mold, who can be your number 6, number 7, be a finisher, and also be your 5th bowler. So I think they need that. So there'll be a couple of really important auction picks for them. But I think on the whole, they've got a very standard Mumbai Indians side, haven't they? They've got a good base, a good strong top order, and then a great fast bowling attack, particularly if Jofra Archer's free. If Jofra Archer is fit, that makes it really scary. I think they can. They just need to have a good auction, I think, to be able to fill in a few of those gaps that they have.
Yeah, I think they just have. We saw them struggle last year in being able to find a replacement for Hardik Pandya and Krunal Pandya. That spinning all-rounder, fast bowling all-rounder, and then also, as you've said, Benj, that the batting all-rounder being a Kyron Pollard-esque player. They need to fill those. The next team we're going to talk about is Sunrisers Hyderabad, who
Big news.
have
Big
been
news.
out of it. They've been out for it for a while in IPL cricket, in the fact that they released Rashid Khan, who is obviously a very good player. They've also decided to release Nick Pooran, who's had a poor run of form, and they've also released Kane.
Captain Kane.
What's gone on there, James?
I think very sensible decisions is what's gone on, because what they've left themselves with a hell of a lot to do at the auction, because they've released most of their team, because what we haven't mentioned is the other however many players it was that they've just binned off. So it's there's a lot for them to do at the auction. They've kept a decent core of very talented players, such as Rahul Tripathi, Aidan Markram, Glenn Phillips, Abhishek Sharma, who's a potential captaincy shout, because even though he's really young, he does captain Punjab. And then like a lot of inexperienced but pretty good fast bowlers.
Bhuvi, Malik.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got a lot of special players there, but they've left a hell of a lot to make in the batting department, especially kind of middle to lower order batsmen. And you've got 42.25 crore. So if they've got like two, three batsmen in mind, 2-3 players in mind that they really want to go all out for, then they'll almost certainly get those players with that kind of purse. But I think three of the names we're going to hear repeatedly, as far as like who teams are likely to target, are going to be Cameron Green, Ben Stokes, and Sam Curran, because they're all very talented players, good all-rounders that have shown their talents in the last few months.
Maybe that's who Mumbai Indians are after. Who knows? Sam Curran. But Sunrisers Hyderabad, I actually disagree in terms of them having a weak middle to lower order, because their middle order at the moment contains Glenn Phillips and Aidan Markram. And they've also got Washington Sundar, Rahul Tripathi, and Marco Janssen, who is a decent bat. I think what they're lacking is the Indian middle order, but it's more the top order who are going to open the batting for them. And I think that's what they need to spend their money on. And maybe it is a Ben Stokes or a Cameron Green, or they need to invest in some Indian players, because they've got a lot of overseas talent in Janssen, Phillips, and Markram. But I guess they could afford actually to get an overseas opener.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, when I looked at the squad that they left themselves with, I immediately saw like a top four in Abhishek Sharma and Aidan Markram. Both have opened in the past. Sharma opens for Punjab. Markram, I think, is best when he's opening. And then Rahul Tripathi has shown that he's really good at 3. And then Glenn Phillips at 4. That is what I saw as the top 4. But I completely see your point that any of those players can slot into the middle. And if there are decent openers around, which we know there are, then you're absolutely right. What do you think, Benj?
I think they need a couple of key bits in their auction. They need to get a good wicket keeper. Glenn Phillips can keep, but I wouldn't, put all your eggs in one basket. So they need a keeper who also can bat. And I think they need, a little bit more batting surety. As Zach said, that Indian batting, I think, is really key. Yeah, I mean, to let go of 12 people, that's huge, isn't it? It's probably even more important for them to have a really good auction. And in the past, they've not done well there. Like, the auctions for Sunrisers haven't always been great. It's let them down quite a lot in the past. We can see, and I think this is a bit of a trend that we've seen all the way through the IPL, just how many teams are stopping with West Indian players. Like Romario Shepherd released, Nick Pooran released, Karen Pollard released. Like, it's almost like this nation, this cricketing nation that was such a massive power hitting is almost being pushed aside, which is really sad to see. But it points back to the World Cup issues. Like, do West Indies have a lot to figure out? I'd like to move on to CSK,
beloved CSK,
my beloved CSK, who have, as we'd have expected, played it very safe. Notable things: Robin Uttapur has retired, and Dwayne Bravo has retired. So both of them are now out. And between the two of them being released, I think it's brought the average age of CSK down by about 10 years. But
You
we'll
still got
see.
Ambati Raidu. You still got
have
MS Dhoni. So
Amazing.
it's still old, but you're right. It has brought the average age down. But CSK have gone with their age old. Let's keep the same core. Let's not really change things. And their squad hasn't really changed. They've still got a lot of overseas options. They've still got a lot of Indian options. And their bonus this year, which Benji will be very happy about, is that Deepak Chahar's quad is intact, ready to go for the start of the season.
And contrary to rumour, Ravi Jadeja hasn't left the franchise, which was going around a lot. So, he's there as well. There's only 2 overseas spots, though. So there's not as much to do at the auction. But I think like a Sam Curran would be perfect. Chris Jordan's been released. Yeah. So I can see Sam Curran coming back into the yellow.
And Adam Milne as well.
And Adam Milne's on as well. I think they're just, clearing spaces for 2 real, top-notch overseas purchases. James, how does CSK stack up for you before we talk about Punjab?
I think they're looking pretty strong. Like you say, they're a relatively vanilla side. They don't change much, which is why they're good. 20 crore going into the auction is a strong purse. They can get at least one of the superstar players, most likely. I think one of Curran, Stokes, and Green stands to be a very, very rich man, because I could see any one of them coming to CSK, to be honest. I'm assuming Dhoni's going to be the captain, but we saw last season, he didn't want to be. He just had to take over from Jadeja because Jadeja was driving the club into the ground. So potentially you could see somebody like Stokes come in and then giving him the armband. Who knows?
I have another option for CSK, because for a long time they went with Imran Tahir as the leggy option. Maybe they go with Adil Rashid.
That'd be a very strong spin option as well. Rashid and Moeen in yellow, that sits well with me. That
would be great.
That gives me pleasing images in my mind.
I do think though that
any more pleasing than your beloved Punjab Kings.
Oh, that's a great segue. No more pleasing than my beloved Punjab, who actually have made some pretty big calls. So in amongst those released, we have first of all the good shout. Odeon Smith has been released. Breathe a sigh of relief, everybody. So is Mike Agarwal, who that then releases 14 crore. So just those 2 players, that's 20 crore to go to the auction with. Vaibhav Arora.
Mayank Agarwal, am I right?
Mayank Agarwal, yeah.
Right, okay.
Lovely.
Yeah, so Vaibhav Arora, Benny Howell, some other good players that have been released. So I've got very mixed feelings about this. What do you say?
Isham Perel, he's gone.
Isham Perel's been binned. I honestly, have I ever made a worse call than saying Isham Perel's going to be good?
If you don't know that private joke, you have to go and watch every single one of our videos.
Yeah,
from last year
to see what it was.
Okay. But yeah, I've got very mixed feelings about this Punjab side, because I think we've released some very good players. Like Vaibhav Arora has been very good domestically in this last season. So is Prerak Mankad. So I'm not sure how I feel. And then some of the people we've retained, such as, well, in particular, we've retained Shahrukh Khan, who he cost us 9 crore in the auction, and he did nothing last season, and he has done nothing since. He's been in the worst form I've ever seen anybody in. Now, I can understand part of the mentality in being that, try and name like many Indian finishers that there are. There aren't many. And we have one of the good ones in Jitesh Sharma. So Shahrukh Khan, I can understand keeping him. He does offer a bit to the side, but 9 crore is a lot. That being said, I think the actual core of the side is very good. And with a couple of decent players, it could be incredible. I'm thinking particularly, again, I'm going back to the same things, but I think either Sam Curran could do really well if he slots in at kind of 7 or 8. It offers us even more death bowling. Bear in mind, we've already got Rabada and Arshdeep. So we've got 3 kind of match winners there. Or we could get Ben Stokes in, who offers a far more level-headed approach in the middle order, which could be really beneficial to say, if you think about last year with Punjab, we alternated win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And the losses were almost always just a horrendous collapse. And nobody was able to kind of play that anchor role. And that's what we wanted from Mayank, but he couldn't do it. He was out of form. So what I think Punjab will do in the auction is they will go hard on one of the 3 superstars that I've mentioned, and they will try and buy back Mayank Agarwal, because I think we still really like him at the club. It's just not for 14 crore. Like any amount that we buy him back for that's less than 14, that's a good move. Like if we buy him back for 10 crore, we've still made 4 crore back. So I think that'll be the shout.
I think one of the good things about Punjab is that they've got a massive purse, like 32 crore going into the auction is really good, and having 3 overseas spots too. I think they could really, forge a nice side for themselves out of what they've got left.
I think the one thing Punjab need, if they're going to splash their cash, is on the Indian option. If they're going to spend big, spend it on a solid Indian player, because, like I said, they've lost Agarwal, but also they've got strong overseas players. Like, look at Johnny Bairstow and Liam Livingston. They're amazing. And they've got really good Indian bowlers with Rahul Chahar and Arshdeep Singh. It's just that middle order and also another opener. I think that would be good for them. Cool. Should we move on to talk about Kolkata Knight Riders?
Let's talk about KKR.
Who have released Pat Cummins, who scored one of the quickest ever 50s in IPL history last season. They've released Sam Billings, which isn't too surprising. And they've also released a lot of players who are probably going to get picked up. Think of Alex Hales, Mohammad Nabi maybe, Sheldon Jackson as well, who's a good Indian option. So they've released a lot of players, and saying that, they've still got a lot of players left. They obviously had a very big squad. Now,
they've got a tiny purse though. They've only got 7 crore remaining, because what they've done though is they've acquired a lot of people by trade. So they've traded for Charlotte Kerr, they've traded for Ramadilla Gurbaz, and they've traded for Lockie Ferguson. Just a note on that, Hales isn't playing in the IPL this year.
No.
Neither's Hales or Sam Billings. They've both made themselves unavailable because they've got quite busy and they're focusing on the domestic season.
Okay. Nor's Pat Cummins. I don't know if you mentioned that one.
So Pat Cummins also, because he's got international duty. So that's why I think they've been forced to release these 3 players. One thing that I've noticed, though, who hasn't got any international duty for Red Bull is Aaron Finch. And I think that's a good move. He's almost been swapped out for Ramadilla Gurbaz, which, I think Gurbaz is a far better opener, and also he's got the option to keep wicket as well, if needed.
I reckon Kolkata Knight Riders are one of the only teams who you could name a solid 11 out of. Like, I reckon their first 11 is already there. I don't know what you think, James.
Yeah, I think if I look on the top of my head, we've got Gurbaz and Venkatesh to open, Rana at 3, Shreyas 4. You could have Russell 5, Ryan 6, Thakur 7, Ferguson 8, Yadav 9, Southey 6. Did I say 6 after 9? That was weird.
10, yeah. And
Chakravarti, yeah. So you're right. They've got a very good team there. And I think any player, probably a middle order player, could do very good things for them. And there are plenty of options there, aren't there? I think somebody like Phil Salt would actually be really good at KKR. Because I think, while Gurbaz is good, he's not like as good as Phil Salt, in my opinion. And he's also a wicketkeeper batsman. So a bit of cover there. They've still got 3 overseas slots remaining, and I think there'll be plenty of players.
Sam Curran, Cameron Green.
Yeah, but they also afford them though.
I was going to say, I don't think they've got the money for
It's
them.
just they're the 3 names that we're saying all the time. So
I knew I was going to be like a broken record with those 3 players, but I think there'll be plenty of players around the block that are going to go for big money. You know, I think there will be some players that go for quite a bit less. I think generally international openers have gone for less, and it could be a very good shout for KKR. So we'll move on. The next team that we need to talk about is Gujarat Titans. Zach, do you want to talk us through Gujarat's retention policy, I guess?
They're another team that's retained a lot of the same players. They've retained pretty much their whole squad, which I think we were kind of expecting from the new teams because they had first dibs at certain players, and I think they've kind of thought ahead to the future, whereas teams like CSK and Mumbai Indians are more, they've been doing well for a certain number of years, so they're trying to keep on to that same score, same sort of team. However, they have released Jason Roy, which is not surprising due to his form of late. They've also released Varun Aaron and Lockie Ferguson. Lockie Ferguson is now playing for another team.
Yeah, so he's in KKR.
So Gurbaz and Ferguson got bought by KKR, yeah.
Yeah, so they've lost a few there, but they've still got a very good middle order, which we saw last year with David Miller and Hardik Pandya and Rashid Khan with his absolutely dutty wrist. I mean, they've got a very good team. And Matthew Wade, he's not a bad player to have, actually. He's quite a reliable player to play in the middle order or at the top of the order. So having that floater there is really good. I think for me, with Gujarat Titans, it's their fast bowling, because they have some okay fast bowlers in Mohammad Shami and Alsari Joseph, but I feel like they may be missing one or two players now they've not got Lockie Ferguson.
Yeah, for sure. I think they just need a little bit of raw pace and firepower. I don't know if Chimera has been retained by Lucknow. No, he hasn't. So potentially someone like Chimera might be a good pickup for them, or a Jason Hole or that type of player, just to really bolster that that fast bowling. Now they've got just under 20 crore left for the auction, 3 overseas spots. So I can only see this as a way that Gujarat make themselves stronger and they get themselves some injury replacement. I think will be their main thing, to have like a bit of extra cover. On to Lucknow, James's most hated team.
I wouldn't say that.
Captain KL. So how do you think they've lined up? Like, they've got rid of some big names in Manesh Pandey, Jason Holder, and as I mentioned, Chimera. What do you think they now need to complete their squad?
I need to get them in front of me so I can have a look, to be honest. I lost them. There we go. Lucknow Super Giants. So they've released Jason Holder, which is probably the biggest name that they've released because they were using him quite a lot. He was their most significant all-rounder, really. They used him a lot at the death, and he was actually really good for them last season. So I think that's a big move. So probably an all-rounder. They like their all-rounders there. You know, if they've got Marcus Stoinis, Krunal Pandya, Deepak Hooda. So yeah, I imagine their top order is pretty set, realistically. Like, you're looking at KL and De Kock opening, and then some order of Vora, Stoinis, Badoni, and Hooda, Krunal, all occupying that top order. So I imagine it's going to be a decent all-rounder, and possibly another death bowler by the looks of things. So, I mean, I'm just describing Sam Curran, really, aren't I? So, maybe that's
there'll be a very scary team if Mark Wood's fit.
Yeah, definitely.
So which I think he will be by the IPL. Fingers crossed, if he doesn't break in Pakistan on the.
Well,
test
the thing
match
is, he's not going to be able to play every game, is he? We've seen that in the World Cup. He can only, if he's going to be bowling over 95 mile per hour, he can't keep that going for every game. Yes, he'll keep it going for a whole game, but you won't be able to do it 5 games on the bounce. So they need to think about who might come in as a replacement, because they need that extra option, because Marcus Stoinis, he's not a death bowler. We've seen him bowl at the death and get absolutely tonked. And I know they've got Avesh Khan, who's a good wicket-taking option at the death, but he doesn't often contain. So I think you're right. They need that option. And I also think there's a lot riding on players like Ayush Badoni, the young Indian players, because they impressed a lot last season. He was a really good find for them last season. But kind of like people saw with Venkatesh Iyer, after a good season, teams work it out. They come up with plans and they stem the flow of runs, which is why they're not international cricketers, I guess. So I think a lot will ride on those middle order young Indian players and see if they can actually improve. So yeah, they've got a good team, but it's obviously not going to be as good as Royal Challengers Bangalore, in my opinion, because they are the greatest team that ever lives, even though they've never won the IPL, which still hurts. However, they have kept a very, very similar squad, because their squad was arguably the most consistent in the last tournament. With, I guess, Gujarat Titans were very consistent, but Royal Challengers Bangalore. Talk to me about the team. Talk about your unbiased views of Royal Challengers Bangalore.
I think for me, for RCB, it's like every name stands out to me, like for some reason or another. Like, yeah, they've got rid of 5 players. They've not got anyone else in. They've basically kept their entire squad and just got rid of a bit of excess team. And they'll pick that back up in the auction. I mean, yeah, the core of, Faf and Kohli at the top of the order. But then you look at the other names of like Finn Allen, superstar, Glenn Maxwell with a broken leg. He might be out for a while, so that might be the only area of issue. Hassaranga's in there. Like Dinesh Karthik, every time you go through Harsh Patel, David Willey, you can just name off so many great players. And I'm like, I don't know how they didn't win. Josh Hazlewood, Siraj, Siddharth Kaur, like you just keep going through, and they've got a fantastic team there. So yeah, I'm not sure what more they can add in the auction. I'd like your opinion on that, James. If you say one of Sam Curran, Cameron Green, or Ben Stokes, I'll be cross.
To be honest,
no, I'm actually going to say the one player that I think would add a lot to that Bangalore side is somebody that hails from Bangalore, a Karnataka legend. It's Mayank Agarwal. I think having a top quality Indian opener, hopefully in slightly better form than he was last year. But if we look at a lot of the RCB side, we see players that were released, or I'm thinking specifically of Maxwell here. We've got a player that was released from Punjab after being in terrible form, and then did insanely well the next season. So I think that could happen with RCB. You could end up having Mayank Agarwal and Faf opening, Kohli 3, and from there you've just got a very, very strong side. I think they've got great replacements. I think Finn Allen, they've showed faith in him the last few years in keeping him, and I think that's the right thing to do. He's very exciting, and if there is a top order injury, who better to come in than a very, very exciting New Zealand opener? So I think there's not a whole lot for them to do.
I think Finn Allen is a very good option to have at the top of the order, but he kind of, can we fit him in if we've got Faf du Plessis in the team, who has obviously been very good for Royal Challengers as the captain. He's the calm leader, which we didn't have in Kohli. And I think having that presence was really good last season. So you're not going to drop him, but is he the sort of Temba Bavuma, Owen Morgan, sort of? He's a very good captain.
He's Faf du Plessis.
Yeah, but is he as good a player? Because he did all right last season, but I've got a few reservations about him at the top of the order. I think
pretty sure he single-handedly won RCB some games last year.
He did, but it wasn't consistent enough. And I think that's what you kind of need from your openers, is a bit more consistency. But I'm sure Virat Kohli, in his return to form, will hopefully provide that. And my second reservation is Dinesh Karthik, the finisher. He didn't finish it well for India in the 2020 World Cup. He'd obviously come to a very good vein of form in the IPL. Can he reproduce his greatness from 2022 in 2023 IPL? And that is my big question. Do we need someone else to fill that role
RCB, sure, hope so.
We do.
I think what was my point going to be? Oh, I think what Faf du Plessis is to RCB now is I think what Chris Lynn is to, and I can't remember if it's Brisbane Heat or Melbourne Stars, where he's like that opener. He's been classed for so many years. Brisbane Heat, Chris Lynn, and now he's sort of falling off the bandwagon now. So I think that's sort of where he is. Talking about not falling off the bandwagon, though, moving on to Rajasthan Royals, who have quite obviously retained the universe Joss. They've got an insanely strong team, I think. They've made some big releases. Darryl Mitchell, Jimmy Neesham, Rassi van der Dussen, who I think all are class players. But they've still retained a large part of their core, particularly of their core Indian talent. Now, I think that will be key going into this tournament. So, James, talk to us about that Rajasthan squad that they've put out.
It's a strong squad, and they've ended up with a decent purse of 13 crores, so they can get, 1 to 2 of the highlight players. You're right, they've retained the core, which there were some question marks about, like Devdutt Padikkal, because he got an insane century in the first game of the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, and then was really quiet from then on in. So they weren't sure if he was going to keep on going, because they've been batting him at like 4, but he really struggles in the middle overs. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense, and he didn't do well. So that'll remain to be seen whether or not he'll do well. But it's the bowling attack for me with Rajasthan. That's what is the most amazing part. They've just got such a strong bowling attack full of match winners.
Yeah.
Like we've seen what Prasid Krishna can do. Trent Bolt speaks for himself. Obed McCoy is a mercurial talent. And then like Ashwin and Chahal. They've got a lot of exciting stuff. Kuldeep Sen as well. Forgot about him. He was really good last season, wasn't he?
And Kuldeep Yadav.
But that's Kuldeep Yadav.
Yadav.
It's the poor man's Kuldeep.
Not Kuldeep. I read that wrong. My bad.
Watch him be awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be the best left arm leg spinner.
He's going to be the next Ishan Parel. One to watch.
Yeah. So I think they've got a strong squad, and all that's really missing is a bit of middle order backup. I don't think they're needed to release Neesham or Mitchell personally. I think they've got very good middle order players in those, but fair enough if they've got their eyes set on somebody else. Stokes, Green.
I reckon they'll want to get Stokes back. Hence why they've got rid of, say, Jimmy Neesham and someone else, Darryl Mitchell. However, I can see them also picking up Cameron Green. If they don't get Stokes, they'll go for Cameron Green because or Sam Curran because they need the overseas all-rounder. That's what they're missing. And they also need that overseas all-rounder to kind of fill the shoes of a good batsman, because Sanju Samson, every year we're like, is this going to be his tournament? Every year it's not. So going off that, maybe, they need that assurance in the batting. So we come to the last team that we are yet to talk about, and that is Delhi Capitals, who are another team who have retained a lot of their players and they've only released 5. One of them being Charlotte Thakur, who's gone to Kolkata Knight Riders, Tim Seifert, who's a good wicketkeeper batsman in franchise cricket, and then a few others who, Mandeep Singh as well. KS Barrett and Mandeep Singh.
KS Barrett going back to RCB, I reckon. That's my call on that.
Maybe, we need him. So they've only released a few players, and the team they've got left
pretty good
is going to be, I reckon, a very hard team to get past.
Yeah, especially if they're all fit. Like top of the order with your David Warner and your Prithvi Shaws, that's pretty scary to look at. Middle order of Mitch Marsh, Rishabh Pant, again, Rodman Powell, lots of power hitting there. They've got good all-rounders, and then they've got a fantastic bowling attack too, with Norkir, Ngidi, Akshar Patel. and the fizz. Like, you could almost put an 11 out right now for that squad. But what they've got also is a healthy purse, like 20 crore nearly, and 2 overseas slots. I think actually Delhi could be one to watch in the auction, who could make one of these big money purchases. I think they, compared to sides like RCB, who have only got a small purse, they can afford to pick up one of these big time players. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they have. I think they've pretty much got a set lineup for their 11. Anything missing, James?
No, not really. Because the main problem with them last year was that so many of their star players were just weirdly out of form. Like David Warner couldn't hit it off the square. Prithvi Shaw wasn't doing amazingly. Rodman Powell, I think Mitch Marsh was coming back after injury. So was what's his name, Anrik Nortje, and they were both like just not that great. Whereas we've seen in recent times they've been amazing. So I think it was a form issue for them, similar to Punjab Kings. Honestly, we just had bad form going into the start of the tournament, which kind of screwed us over. So I think Delhi have got an incredible squad, and they can just look to strengthen it further with, you're right, like a good headline purchase and then some good Indian cover. Good time to be a Delhi fan, I reckon.
Especially, I'm just looking at Chetan Sakaria, who was really impressive with the ball last year, and I think he's a great young Indian player to have, learning off Anrik Nortje and Kagisa Rabada. So yeah, they've got some very good. Oh, is Kagisa Rabada doesn't play for Delhi anymore, does he? No,
he is a Punjab boy now.
I didn't mean
Lungi
Rabada. Yeah, Ngidi, that's the one. I knew he was South African, but yeah, to have some really good experienced fast bowlers is going to be really good for those younger Indian players. But yeah, it's exciting. As soon as we start talking about the IPL, as soon as we get our first video, it's great. We get more views and more subscribers, and yeah, it's lovely. Anyway, on that, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment who you think has had the best retentions, who do you think has the best squad currently, and who would you like your team to buy, because we want to know who you support, because we've all got our favorites, and yeah, it's exciting. So make sure you leave your comments, make sure you follow us on social media. We are at Cricket Nerds Pod, and make sure you listen to us on all your podcasting sites. And I believe that's everything. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.